let's talk about green. And when you're painting outside, you know that there's a lot of greens in the summer or the spring. And when we want to work with prismatic colors, you can see we've got in these pastel set reds and oranges and greens, blues, indigo violets, and back to more magenta reds. When we're working with greens or any color, but especially greens, as a landscape painter, you need to have a lot of greens. And so here we have mid-tone greens, dark greens, and light greens, so that you have values, the gradations of light to dark. And we want to have greens in a variety of temperatures. And why does that matter? Because when you're looking at a painting, and whether you're a collector or an artist, anything that is in the sunny side is going to have more of a yellow green to it, and anything that's in the shadow or the cooler side, or something that's depicted further in the distance, is going to have a more bluer cast to it. So these are both greens. You can see they're far off from the real green, like the green, prismatic green. One is a little more yellow, one is a little bit more blue, and whether they're darker or lighter, this one's a little bit more yellow, this one's a little bit more blue. We need to have greens, especially if we're working in pastel. It's hard to make them, but if you are painting, we can buy greens. I have all these tubes of greens that you can see I never use. Why don't I just pull out a tube of green? And let me give you an example, because let's look at this green here. For me, it's just, I'm going to put it on here, and you can compare that to some of the greens that I've made up. It just doesn't feel natural to me. So I'm going to take away all these pre-mixed greens, which who knows what they have in them. And I'm going to go back to my prismatic set, which is yellow, a red, and a blue. And now my brush, I left my palette knives home, so I don't have those today. I usually always mix with palette knives, so you'll have to excuse me, but this is exactly why I don't, because I had already had red on my brush. My brush got contaminated. So I'm going to take that off. Now, a solution is to use more than one brush, which I could very easily do. But so to make green, yellow, and touch of blue. See, if I put that into that whole thing, it would have been too dark. I'm going to grab a little bit more yellow and mix this here. It's got a little more blue. So this is a much more natural looking green right there than this one is here. This one leans a little bit more yellow. This one leans bluer. But what happens if I just add more blue to this mixture? I have a more bluer, and if we want to see what that really looks like, we're going to add a little white to it, which that looks like it has a little white in it, but we really don't know. But I'm suspecting it does. So that's too blue. I'm going to go back again and get some yellow. And just tone that down, that blue down a little bit. So there's a much nicer green. Again, in comparison to that one's still bluer. This one is bluer than this one, but that one is bluer yet. So if I want to get this other one, let's see, that's too blue. Let's get a little white again. And that one's a little bit bluer than that one. This one still feels unnatural to me. So I can mix up lots of greens. If we want to go lighter, we can add white. But anytime you add white, what does it do? It just makes it chalky. So let's add a little more yellow to that. And if we don't want it too yellow, I'm going to add some more. That was in my brush. I've lightened that blue without making it too yellow. Just the yellow gives it a little more life. And we can lighten the side that is already more leaning toward yellow with the yellow itself. And we can also add white if we want to. I'm not going to add too much at one time. but again, white makes it look chalky, so there it got a little chalky looking. Let's just add the tiniest bit of yellow to it, and that livens it back up. So green is better off if you're mixing it yourself. And in the color course, I really go into detail on how to make colors warmer and cooler and what to do with them. And this color here, let me just see if I can save it a little bit, add a little bit of the complement to it, what happens. And that is, to me, is what we just did there. So I don't need this pre-mixed color. I can do it on my own, and so can you. And then the color course, we show you how to really work with that color wheel, get to know it.